What is a Nordic LARP?
Yeah, so Nordic LARP is a style, and it's kind of hard to like categorize this as, we're not in fact Scandinavian or from Europe. So we're mostly just emulating the sort of artistic styles of something that we experienced. So we came up in the American LARP scene. We played, what we call, sort of the fantasy boffer style LARPs. And then also the sort of troop style, theatrical style LARPs that would, be the Vampire the Masquerade and sort of other like Mind's Eye Theater games. And those were the majority of the experiences that we'd had. We'd done a couple little side experiences. It wasn't until 2016 that we went to New Orleans actually and went to the Grand Masquerade, which was a giant vampire masquerade convention, and had an opportunity to play in End of the Line, which is a Nordic vampire LARP. And then it changed for us a lot of what we thought LARP could be. And we wanted to experience more of that and then also to bring more of that to the United States. So Ken, Tyler, and I, who's the core founders, we decided that we wanted to run this style. We started setting up small LARPs locally. And I would say, we're Nordic influenced, whatever that means. But the sort of core aspects of Nordic is that it's immersive. So you're aiming more for an immersion, which typically means you'll toss out things like mechanics. So you'll have a very light mechanics, or almost like mechanics absent sort of event. And then you will also aim for what you see is what you get. So you want people to be in the experience, right? It's part of that immersive quality. So you don't want to describe what's happening to anybody. They're going to witness it with their own eyes. There also tends to be an emphasis on, any number of different concepts. I mean, we've written some LARPs. For instance, one is a seance, where,
I
we have
saw
the
that on.
yep, seance sessions. That was our very first LARP. And it was kind of a training wheels LARP for people who had never LARPed before, and certainly had never done Nordic. And we wanted to sort of give them, an intro to some of those concepts. Then we also have another one called A Cog in the Machine, which is a sort of like pressure cooker style LARP about people making, high risk decisions after, cataclysmic events. There's sort of now the government, and they have to get together and decide on things. And then we've also run one that's a blockbuster style, which is very large. It's similar to what Saturnalia is, which we'll talk about later. But is a Lovecraftian style or Cthulhu-esque LARP. And that one involved people portraying cultists who are bringing about the end of the world.
Nice.
And our most recent LARP, another blockbuster, is called The Haunting of Grey Manor, where people were invited into a haunted house and then crossed over and became the ghosts who were haunting that house. So the concepts can range pretty widely. We're working on one that will come up in the future, which is a wrestling LARP, right? And so a lot of what we're doing is trying to find themes that are immersive and interesting, that will pull people in. But a Nordic LARP can really be anything. I mean, you have a very broad tradition, especially in Europe, and they've done all sorts of interesting things. There's one based on Hamlet. We've had ones that are like, very interesting based on The Witcher. So it can be very broad, I think, in terms of what LARP is. And some of our goals as a studio is to kind of expose people to that and really explore the depths of Nordic LARP and kind of get away from how people normally conceptualize LARP in this country, which is say, oh, it's sort of like D&D, but we're playing it live, and I think that's the norm.
Well, that's what I was about to bring up. What I was trying to do here in the interim was bring up the website here, because that's what really struck me as. Oh, so I need to go over here as I was going through this material here. Is some of the pictures that come out of this, because I mean, look at this. That this is very different from, if you think about people with some latex ears on and in a boffer fight or something like that, this is very different from that, which is what I would have previously considered or thought of, conjured to mind when I thought of LARP.
Right.
But the pictures here that come out of this are amazing. This is very different from that. Ken, did you want to talk about Nordic LARP and its experience here?
Yeah, I mean, Garrett pretty much nailed all of it. I would say that like LARP can vary on a spectrum because as Garrett sort of mentioned, there are all types out there for all sorts of personalities and play styles. From like there's like Boffer or sports LARP, which is very athletically intensive, to a very rules intensive LARP, to the style that we started practicing more and more. And I mean, I would say like the reason that we got into Nordic LARP is, I worked on Boffer and very mechanics. I've written rule books that are like this thick for LARPs before. And really what my personal journey was with it is that like more and more as I developed this, I really wanted to get more out of the experience than just like heavy rules and acting out scenes with heavy rules intensive backgrounds. Because like the simple truth is I get that out of tabletop. Like I can do that already today with my friends. I can do that already, as part of my lifestyle. And so when I was designing LARPs, I actually wanted to bring people into an immersive experience of being somebody else for a while and not getting lost in thinking about mechanics and rules and other things, but actually to get lost in the experience itself and actually like bring them on this character's journey into an event and make it as frictionless as possible for somebody to really involve and get invested into it. So because I mean, one thing I find is in rules intensive systems, I'm half playing my character, but I'm half doing math and like quantifying distance and mechanics and scenes and probabilities and those sorts of things. And so what we tried to do with a lot of the experiences we run now is take a lot of the complication out of it and make it really about the experience itself. Like for Saturnalia, you're going to New Orleans and you're a vampire. And we have plenty of safety mechanisms in place, but a lot of the mechanics we have are really for like safety and calibration, and not necessarily like, well, I have a 5 combat statistic, so I can win this fight, right? It's really, in the grand scheme of telling us an epic story, who wins the fight is not as tangibly important as both participants getting what they want out of the experience. And that is kind of being a cool vampire in New Orleans.
If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. It'll be greatly appreciated. And also, please check out The Cultists, the web series on this channel about modern-day D&D playing Lovecraftian cultists who just want to worship Cthulhu in a world full of people who just don't understand. Season 1 is on the channel now. But also, please check out my YouTube channel. I have over 200 videos on tabletop gaming and the sci-fi and fantasy genres. If you enjoyed this video, you'll likely enjoy many of them as well.